So let's check in now with veterans entering the workforce, an economic advantage to Michigan. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
But I'd like to start, Matt, if you could, and start on your end. And each of you share a bit of your story, what brings you here, messages you want the audience to come away with, just as a broad overview. And then we're going to jump in and go into our moderation. Of
course.
Thank you.
So Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America is the largest nonprofit dealing with veterans issues of today. We're the ones out there advocating. We're trying to bring awareness to our issues and just really cultivate all of the resources that are out there. We try to be a one-stop shop for veterans and their spouses and their families to be able to come in and understand what's exactly entitled to them. So that's what we're here today to talk about, is just exactly what IAVA does for vets and how we can connect with other resources here in Michigan and throughout the country to be able to better veterans' lives and to get them to where they need to be.
Thank you. Go ahead, Justin.
Sure. I think currently the reality is that the numbers are staggering, to be quite frank. And if you want to look at the state unemployment rate and then you compare that to the veteran unemployment rate, we're looking at over 3 times the difference. And even going nationally, the numbers are dramatically increased as well. So really, I think what's going on is that we have a major disconnect. And to give you a little bit of a framework, I'll share a little bit of my personal story with you. And essentially, I joined the Marine Corps in May of 2001, and this is actually before September 11 happened. And as you can imagine, a few months later, my life absolutely changed. And I knew that I was on that trajectory to go into combat, to be quite honest. I served 2 tours in Iraq. On my second tour in Iraq, I was injured twice. The first time, my 28,000-pound light armored vehicle rolled over into a canal, pinning me. The only thing that I was able to move was my arm. I was underneath this 28,000-pound vehicle in a canal for 40-plus minutes. And the thoughts going through my head at this time were everything from being crushed to death to being burned to death because the ignition switch was left on in the vehicle and fuel was running around my feet. I could smell the fumes. It was 130 degrees out in the desert, and I was being crushed. As our guys tried to dig me out of my vehicle, the vehicle continued to roll on me more and more. I came to a point of despair and hopelessness where, sadly, I came to a point where I decided to end my life. And I reached down to where my 9mm pistol was, where it normally was, and it was the one day I didn't go to the field with my pistol. Had I have gone to the field with my pistol that day, I wouldn't be here in front of you. They eventually did get me out, and I spent a couple weeks medevaced into Baghdad at the hospital and just recuperating. And I'll tell you, it wasn't so much the bruised ribs, it was that I lost my confidence. And I was a 24-year-old young, confident, cocky Marine with zero confidence in a combat zone. And that was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to deal with in my life. On top of that, I was in charge of other men, and I had to go back out there. November 29, 2004, we were on a nighttime patrol on another one of these canal roads, and we were ambushed. And an IED went off directly beneath my vehicle and threw my vehicle into the air and destroyed it. It opened up my vehicle like a tuna can. I had multiple injuries in my legs. Tourniquet on my leg, I should have lost my leg, but they kept it. We have amazing medical facilities. 8 surgeries, 6 weeks in the hospital. The point I want you to know is this. It wasn't even so much the physical aspect of it. What you have is a bunch of men and women who are coming back, who, because of these great breakthroughs in medical technologies, are staying alive. But the veterans of today aren't content with the status quo. And that's why I'm here. Because for me to come back and to live a life of normalcy and mediocrity is not sufficient. We have seen the other side. We have seen life and death. And those are heavy things to contemplate and to deal with. And I think that we have one of our nation's greatest underutilized assets, and that is our veterans. And I think that when we bridge this gap, when we understand where they're coming from and what their purpose is and what they're trying to do, I think that what you're seeing is an outpouring of veterans who want to give back, who want to make a difference, who want to make an impact. And what we need to do is learn how to bridge that gap. And when we do, amazing things are going to happen. Amazing things are going to happen in the state of Michigan.
Wow. Thank you very much, Julie, for the early comments about Western Michigan University. But let me be very clear and start right out by saying this is not about Western Michigan University. This is much a greater call. It's about all of our educational institutions, higher education, community colleges doing more to make sure that we serve and provide great support and service to those who have served us so very, very well. We have had great success on our campus, but it is not by accident. It is really about commitment. And I think that's what we're about here today, is commitment, to make sure that we do the right thing. I have an early trustee at that time in 2007 when we started this thing. Trustee Archer's here with us today, and thank you very much. We got it right then because we knew that to make sure that we serve people like Justin very well, and Matt and others, that we needed to get over a few hurdles. The first hurdle was all veterans on our campus are in-state. Their dependents are in-state. We do not count them as out-of-state for tuition charges or purposes. And we believe that was very, very important. We also know that it's important when an active military comes to the university or to a community college, sometimes their benefits don't follow right away. We provide support and bridge for them, a mini grant to help that active person move right into their education, because we know how important that is. And it has served us well, and I think it has served our veterans very, very well. We do have a dedicated advocacy office. We believe that we call that office Serving Those Who Served. And it's actively staffed by people whose job is to make sure that we are providing support for our 500 plus Afghanistan and Iraqi veterans on our campus. We also have a veteran specialist in our registrar's office to make sure the experiences that these young men have had, that they transition, that they count for something, because they should count for something. These are great life experiences that also have a lot to do with their academic success. We have a Student Veterans Association on our campus. I could talk more about that later. And we also make sure when those veterans walk across that stage and receive the degree that they've earned, that they are acknowledged in a special way with an honor cord that's red, white, and blue. Because we want to make sure that we are there at the beginning, we're there as they graduate, and we're going to be there as they seek employment. And finally, I'll just end with one thing, although I have many, many more things to say. We were identified recently as a Vet Success University. We're one of 11 in the United States. Great support from this office, from our general, and also from Senator Allen, Director Allen. Thank you for your support. Well, what this means is this is a gift to all of Michigan, because we will have provided for us a vocational counselor supported by the VA, and also an outreach coordinator to make sure that veterans know the benefits that are out there that they can access, not only Western Michigan University, but other institutions in our state. We're doing that in partnership with Kalamazoo Community College and or Kellogg Community College, excuse me, and Kalamazoo Valley Community College. So we're very, very proud of our successes, but the story again today is that we can do more. And the benefit to our university is that, yeah, we provide a great education, but these veterans are enriching and enhancing our university through their stories or life experiences, and wow, it just makes it a much, much richer environment than it was before. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. What powerful stories, and some great initiatives out there being worked. And I would tell you that, first of all, thank you all for taking the time to come in and respond to the whistle, to the call for action. That's a good thing. And I want to give particular thanks to the governor for understanding, and you can't solve a problem that you don't recognize, analyze, and come up with a plan to deal with it. And he realizes that there's an issue. We all do. Everybody in this room does. And at the end of the day, it's about understanding the magnitude of the problem and developing the plan to address it. And so that's what we're all about. It's lining up the resources that are out there, and they are numerous, and that's part of the problem, with the requirements. And it's not a one-shoe-fits-all. Every veteran's not have the same kind of issues. They don't have the same kind of skill sets. So we got to work through all that. This is a work in progress. And I will tell you that in the, how many months I've been doing this, 16, 17 months, I think we've made some great progress. And it's been through the hard work by a lot of you sitting in this room today. And we appreciate that. Obviously, more work to do. And that's the charge that I think we all collectively have. But I want to share with you, I want to take a minute and talk to you about the great team that I have the honor of serving with, the Michigan National Guard. And Julie mentioned we have about 1,200 Guardsmen, Air, and Army deployed today. And of that great team deployed in Afghanistan and in Kuwait, roughly 30 to 40% of some of those units are facing unemployment problems. And I just recently returned from a visit downrange a week and a half ago, and I will tell you that the pledge that I made to those soldiers and to those unit commanders was, you focus on your mission, and I will take back, and we're going to work this jobs piece for you. And you know, it's not what you say, it's what you do. So we are out and attacking the problem by collecting data, relevant information about each individual soldier and airman in terms of what their skill sets are, wants, needs, and desires. We have tools out there that translate the skill sets that they have learned in the military above and beyond just the general leadership skills and all the professionalism, the physical fitness, the can-do attitude, the loyalty, the dependability that comes along with any member you get with the uniformed military. But we're trying to get very specific data so we can start working the eaches. And that's the way I look at this. It's each soldier, airman, Marine, Navy, Coast Guardsman. Each one of those people is an individual effort, is an individual fight. We've got to develop the processes, though, to make this whole system, and we've got to develop a system where things are more user-friendly so that the interaction between the business community, universities, different agencies, and veterans and my team is more user-friendly, so you can kind of get there from here. And it is a complex problem, but we are working on it. I can trust you, we're working on it every day. I can tell you we are looking just from a state of Michigan perspective of the 17 different directorates. 15 of those directorates touch Veterans Affairs in some form or fashion. Not so much, it's somewhat stovepiped, so we're working towards a more collaborative endeavor. We have launched on that, making great progress, and that's just the beginning. That is just the beginning. But besides all the veterans issues that we're dealing with, I want to tell you, my primary mission is to provide trained, equipped, and ready soldiers and airmen to meet both domestic requirements of the governor, and we're doing it right now up in Luce County, up in the Duck Lake fire. We've got 4 UH-60s supporting the fire, all the way to the war fight. And I tell you, the commitment and dedication by our citizen soldiers, 375 years of history. The second largest component of the United States military is the National Guard, and we've got the longest history in the nation. So it's a very proud, robust, capable organization. And just another couple points on the veterans side. I want you to understand, we've got a veterans population group of about 700,000, 720, 730, depending on who numbers you believe. And it's, I'm getting an interesting lesson on that when you start looking at data, what's out there, and I'm going, wait a minute. You know, you got to do, you just got to pick a number and run with it. But it's a significant population group, and the preponderance of our veteran population is actually the Vietnam-era veterans. And we were just talking before in the green room before we came out that we're doing a pretty good job with our contemporary veterans, at least collecting data, getting them into the veterans system. Not so much with the Vietnam-era veterans and the Korean War veterans. And so we've got to work that, and it's not that easy because a lot of those folks aren't necessarily tied to a computer, so you can't lean on those kinds of systems. So we've taken that on and making great progress. So I would just say that, as I mentioned before, this is not a one-shoe-fits-all solution to the multitude of problems and opportunities that are out there. And from a business perspective, and I can tell you I was 40 years in the oil and gas industry in the civilian side. I understand risk. I understand about making a buck, making a payroll. I got it. And I would tell you it's about good people, and successful organizations surround themselves with good people. And I can tell you the best candidates you're going to find are our veterans and the service members serving in all reserve components today that are out there and available to your organizations. So with that, I'll shut up, or I'll just keep going. I didn't get the high sign yet, so.
You know, General, I think I'd like to pick up on that topic because there was a survey that was released very recently that said that 52% of all employers can't find the talent that they're looking for. And I come to the panel as kind of the HR geek. So I've been in the human resources field since 1984. So I've been out there for a long time. I've hired a lot of people and done resumes and all of that type of stuff. But when you see the 52% say they can't find the talent, but yet we're sitting here saying in the state of Michigan, in our veteran population, again, do funny math, we've got 210,000-ish folks out there who are unemployed, who bring the talents and the skills that most employers are craving. When an employer calls, they say, we can't find someone who understands what it means to go above and beyond. Justin, I think you get going above and beyond. I think anyone who's served understands going above and beyond. And, you know, I guess to throw it back to the panel, and we had a wonderful conversation in the green room before we got out here, so I really don't want to, like, assign questions. Let's be conversational because I think it'll help the group as well. But, I mean, what are we missing? What are we missing when we say we've got this 52% that can't find the talent, and we have 210,000 skilled in many different layers, veterans?
Sure. I think it starts with really you have two different cultures. I mean, to be quite honest, you have the civilian culture and then you have the military, which is vastly different. And to say that they're intercombined, you know, is disingenuous. Like, it's not true. So I think that what you have to understand is just the cultural differences. And I think that you need to understand a little bit where the veteran's coming from. So as we were talking in the green room, is, you know, when a veteran comes in for an interview, maybe they're more quiet. Maybe they're being a little bit more humble. And because in the military, you don't speak unless spoken to. And in private sector, it's all about selling ourselves, right? I mean, we all need to sell ourselves. So, you know, I think that we could do a little bit on both sides of it, but I think that is the issue, one of the issues right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I would agree with that. It's marketing yourselves. We as veterans are always told, you know, to shut up and color. Basically, you figure out what exactly you're supposed to do and then execute. But many times we don't know how to self-promote. The other thing that I think we need to touch on is the fact that we don't know how to relay our skills in the civilian sector. What I did in the Air Force for 6 years, I did 2 tours in Afghanistan. It was about 100 combat missions doing communications jamming, raid coordination, and counter IED. Many of you wouldn't know, wouldn't understand that if I put that on my civilian resume. But what it means is that I was good with communications. I worked logistics. I managed men and personnel in aircraft and on the ground, and also managed up chain to headquarters and things like that. So now I know how to sell myself, but what we need to do is be able to give the resources to veterans for them to be able to sell themselves in an interview as well. So what IAVA is doing is we're working on smart job fairs, what we're calling it. And we say smart because we want to give them resume workshops before they even get into the job fair. We want to give them interview skills training before they get in. Sometimes it even entails a makeover, to be able to get them the appearance that they need to have to walk into an interview and actually make the impression. And so from this Smart Jobs Fair, what we do is then have actively seeking companies, select companies in the room for veterans to be able to go in and talk to. It's not an overwhelming experience. There aren't thousands and thousands of people there. It's very focused. And so what we're going to be doing here is we actually have a job fair coming up in Chicago on June 6th at the Chicago Hilton. So that would be another example for you guys to look at, is what exactly, just how we're conducting job fairs and how we want other people to be, doing these job fairs and beyond, to be able to get resume skills out there.
And I think, Mann, if you go back to Justin's point on confidence, I mean, if you think about when you're looking for a job, whether you're a civilian or a veteran, looking for a job does nothing for your confidence. Just in that sector alone. I mean, you send out resume, and you send out resume, and you leave phone mail, and you send email, and no one responds. And so keeping one's confidence up in a normal job search is tough. And, you're coming with that with I mean, you mentioned the comment on confidence. I mean, that's a very true. And to take both of your comments and kind of push it back out to the hiring sector is that, I think we have a responsibility when you see there was service on a resume to pull. Perhaps they're used to people understanding what they've done. And it may just be our responsibility to help pull that out in an interview and help understand and help create that translation. Because it is the translation. I had a client very recently where we presented a resume in, and they had been a commander, and the person looked at the resume and they said, "Commander of what? And what does that mean to me?"
Wow.
Yeah, and Julie, let me make a couple comments on this issue, and great comments, guys, and you're absolutely right. It's our culture, what you've come from, and particularly, and I'll tell you what, it's different if you were enlisted versus an officer versus a senior officer. I mean, it just culturally, where'd you come up within the military? So again, I go back to the one shoe doesn't fit all. But let me tell you a couple things we're doing. Let me take you up to the 50,000 foot level, big DOD, and it's taking a program, and it's a translator program that takes whatever that military skill set was that he or she had and translating it into kind of civilian speak and how it syncs up with the job skills that you may be looking for. So that's a very helpful tool, and I think that every once in a while we get it right in the military, and I thought, wow, somebody, that actually makes sense. And I can tell you just from a legislative perspective in Michigan, we right now, and I think it was introduced yesterday, the legislature put forth a bill so that certain skill sets, I think it's electricians, plumbers, and military police can get credit for their service in the military and that skill set, so it counts for accreditation towards whatever accreditation requirements are. So again, I tell you, we're starting to figure this out. We're taking steps forward. In all of this, it's got to get bundled together, you know, so that we can get there.
Well, and I was going to say, I'm sure you can add to that, John. Yeah,
well,
please.
One of the things that I'm very pleased with the support of the Veterans Administration on our campus, because of the Vet Success identity, we will have vocational counselors, because there's an acknowledgement that we need more help and support beyond the academic training to make sure that people are appropriately prepared for those interviews and do a good job, and that they are obviously placed. There is some speculation, I'd be interested, you know, from the general and others, that maybe this generation's a little bit different because of the multiple tours of duty than have been others who have served earlier, and may need a little bit more support in terms of identifying and finding those opportunities in the workplace.
Well, and I think interesting, and I'm going to turn it back to the Major General, but this is the first time in U.S. history that our workforce has had 4 generations working together. So even that adds as well to the complexity, General.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point, and it's an interesting dynamic as you go back and look at wars and what we went through as a nation and how this kind of translates to what we do today. We've been at a war for 11 months. I think World War II was 48 months. Vietnam was, somebody bail me out, 70. It was long, but it wasn't 11 years. And so you get a little, you get a little different dynamic. And I'll tell you what's happening in my formations. It's almost become a way of employment. You know, if you've joined the National Guard or a reserve component after 2001, you've probably done 2 or 3 deployments. And I've got several of my soldiers and airmen that have done 4 or 5, and they keep volunteering for the deployments because it's great, it's good money. And, you know, you get concerned because the other difficult thing, and let me talk about the active component, if you join the active component military after 9/11 and you're still wearing a uniform today, you've probably deployed 3 or 4 times. Okay, so you're young, you're in your early 20s, you got a wife, you got a couple children. That's tough to deal with. That's very difficult to deal with. We ask a lot of them. You know, less than 1% of the nation serves. And if you have the honor of wearing the uniform in the United States military, only 25